Hey, welcome to Wii Talk U Listen. My name is Solburst. With me today is, well, she doesn't claw, but Nuna bites.
Hi.
Nobody understands his name, but let's get Miggy. Well, let's get Jiggy. So here's Miggy.
I'm glad that you're able to come up with such a creative way to introduce me.
Me too. And also with me, he's not so much sly, but he is tricky.
My God.
And finally, he's more of a passive pathogen, but here's deadly virus.
This is appalling.
And this is where we talk you listen.
So if you like
that
that new intro, just please unsubscribe from our YouTube channel and never watch us again. That'll be a good indicator.
We look on the page tomorrow morning, 0 subscribers.
Good.
I thought
That's about what we deserve after that.
I thought that's where we were already at.
So, I liked it. I thought it was very charming.
Aw, thank you, Nuna. That's what matters.
I vote that Sol doesn't get any chance to introduce ever again. That's just my opinion.
No!
I thought this worked better than any of ours, where we would have a long pause, like whenever I would be like, "This is Sol," and all of a sudden, an hour later, Deadly finally gets his message over the pond and goes, "Oh, this is Deadly."
Look, I respond immediately after you do your introductions. It's just, I don't know if the internet cables across the Atlantic Ocean are a bit slow transmitting to you. I cannot help this fact.
Deadly, let me talk! Are we going to do the interrupting thing again, where Nuna doesn't get to talk?
Nuna, if you...
I sincerely apologize.
Oh, now I feel like a jerk. I'm sorry.
Nuna, don't take it
I don't
back.
think that's how
You
that
did a
works.
really good comeback, and all of a sudden you just turn back to very nice. That's why I like
Wow,
you.
I just realized that like 2 seconds before not 2 seconds, but like an hour before the podcast, I was yelling at my younger brother, and my throat is so sore right now. I think my throat might actually cut out at some point, so I apologize if it does. So I'm having a really hard time talking.
I hope
yeah,
your
just-
throat doesn't cut out. That'll be bloody and horrible.
You will
Nuna,
also
what were you
be
trying to
kind
say?
of unable to participate in the podcast.
Nuna, what were you
Well,
trying
if
to
it
say?
does, if it does, I'll like turn on my webcam and video record it. That way, at least I'll provide some interesting entertainment for podcasts to come.
So-
boy.
Slitting your throat open is interesting entertainment.
Apparently it is.
Apparently.
We're not going on that tangent.
Nuna, before you were rudely interrupted by Deadly, what were you trying to say?
Oh, I was gonna call you out on the fact that you actually paused quite a bit during our intro. I think when you hear back the audio to this podcast, you'll be quite surprised at how little that did nothing for our prior problem.
Boom!
I'll be editing this, so I'll make sure there's like a really big pause, like bigger than usual. Like there's gonna be one where it's just so.
That was the
like, you're gonna be
Soulburst
like, when
meeting
is this gonna
pause, by the
start?
way.
Yeah, you could like include a clip saying we apologize for the technical difficulties, like just over and over again, and put some lounge music because lounge music is the best.
Yeah, the day after we go to look at this episode after it's uploaded to YouTube, and it's like 6 hours long, when all we really went was like an hour, and just like 5 hours of it is just Soul saying we're having technical difficulties over and over again.
And there's just a picture. There's just the Shinshu Field music from Okami going on, and just
No.
just pictures of Amaterasu will just pop up. And then every once in a while there'll be a really cute one, so Nuna just goes. Well, I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know if anyone knew this, but on the day of this recording, the world was supposed to end, so that kind of failed.
At the
Come on,
very
Lions.
moment of this recording, and in fact the entirety of this podcast is going on after the day the world was meant to end in England.
Coming to you
that's
live, coming to you live. We are reporting from the apocalypse right now. There are fireballs shooting from the sky, and we are all dead.
Actually, I'm not sure if you guys know this, but I'm currently in an alleyway at the moment. I'm in a dumpster. There's hordes of zombies outside. I am fearful for my life, but I figured that if I could at least provide some sort of entertainment for any survivors out there, I'm gonna do my damn best to do it. I'm sorry if you hear any screams in the background. They're not little children. I promise you, they are not.
Nuna, I'm gonna give you a number. You need to call Enterprise. They'll pick you up.
Okay. I'll try to call, but I'm just so scared.
Alright, then I'm picking you up. Stay right there.
Now, of course, because I am British and of high royal class, and obviously I have relations to the Queen because we are all inbred, I am sitting quite comfortably in my bedroom, wrapped in a dressing gown with a nice cup of tea and some crumpets, and this is how I'm spending my apocalypse.
You know, I was gonna say, does that mean that you're calling us low class? But after the whole inbred statement, I'm okay with it.
So, okay, who all enjoyed 2012? I did.
That movie was awful, actually.
Isn't that Mig, stop it! Okay, 2012 was a pretty good year for gaming, so we're going to talk about some awesome games. But definitely not The Walking Dead. That's
definitely not
that's
The Walking Dead. Nobody here has any interest in talking about that game.
Exactly.
Especially me.
Exactly. But you know what? Let's talk about some awesome video games. Not video games awesome, but awesome video games.
Yes.
Oh, did we just give a shout out to another show?
No,
I'm sure they'd appreciate it so much with how many viewers we have versus how many viewers they have.
Anyway,
yeah, I think we might have spiked up their viewer list by one person if we're lucky.
As long as we're doing shout-outs, I mean, so far we've advertised for them and Enterprise. Maybe we should, like, start asking for money.
Wait, we're not getting money off of this?
No.
Oh, well, bye.
Are you
I don't want
getting
any
money
part
off
of
of
this
this?
if I'm not making money.
I think we're doing it wrong, guys.
I think we are. That could be a
Big
problem.
forgot to press the button that says, "Do you want to make money?" I think you should do that.
Yeah, I definitely forgot that. The big red button that says, "Do you want money?" on the YouTube upload page.
England stole that actually after the apocalypse, which is how they're living so well at the moment. So that button no longer exists.
Oh, okay.
Aww.
Yeah, sorry guys. I don't know if you know, but I am now... Because the zombies have basically killed off the entire royal line of succession, I am now the King of England. So...
God help them.
Oh, I get it. So it was a deadly virus that ended the world.
Ha ha ha! Well, it was more of a passive pathogen.
Jeez.
So, Nuna, Deadly, and Tricky, you guys are PC gamers, somewhat, correct?
Somewhat.
Yes.
Let's
I think
talk
we
about
should
the
say
PC
that we've
games of the
actually...
year.
Yeah, say we compiled a list of all the systems and the top games of the year. So since the three of us are PC gamers, Noon, do you want to read off what our? Do you want to start off with like 3, 2, and then 1? Kind of make it climactic.
Guys, that transition into Game of the Year stuff was so bad. We need some like, push. And this is our list of Games of the Year. Push.
You should be on TV.
We need like how people always overdo it in their top 10 videos, so it needs to be like number 1.
Yeah. Top 10, top 10, 10,
Flames
10.
shooting everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, so we're on the category of PC games. Our push number 3.
This topic is absolutely steaming.
Oh, I see what you did there. Steaming.
So I'm so glad
Okay,
we have
no.
you on here. You make such profile jokes.
I'm glad you guys have me on here too. I don't know what I would be doing tonight. Probably just
Probably
staring at
well-
Glenna's
playing her
profile
comic.
picture. While playing her comic.
So yeah, we did like talk immensely over like our video games of the year. So this category is PC games, and whoosh, number 3 is Torchlight 2.
And also, just want to clarify that by immensely, she means like 10 minutes. So we did pretty
Actually, you should have seen
Well,
it when we were discussing it the other day. We went on for like
Yeah,
We're gonna
3
get
hours.
We're gonna
It was
get
pretty
to that
impressive.
later. We'll get to that later. No, it was more
Yeah.
like
So
it was more like 8 hours. You're being generous.
yeah, we actually did, like talk about this a lot, and we're not even exaggerating on this. So like, don't undermine this list. We did like really go into discussion.
Our
That being said,
sorry.
PC category, whoosh, number 3, Torchlight 2.
good.
Number 2, Diablo 3. And finally, our number 1. Deadly can say this one because he has a British accent. It'll sound cooler.
Guild Wars 2.
That actually sounded pretty cool. This is where it needs like the Jigsaw voice on it. Number.
Oh, if only I could record that over Audacity.
That would be amazing. Enough
I like how
behind the
nobody has
scenes.
any idea what we're talking about except for us.
Yeah,
That's the best part of
I'll
that.
probably cut that out.
No, the
So-
guests will know.
I guess
Well,
we'll know.
full
Yeah,
guests.
as long as we can appeal to guests who are on here and us, I think that's fine.
So, who Guild Wars 2, what did you guys think of it? Like, why is it so good?
It's a very unique MMO of sorts. In that it has
Please, that's all that matters.
It has a slightly untraditional leveling system, which really sets it apart, I think. Which is part of why I enjoyed it so much, because it doesn't really have quests, so to speak. It's more just... Well, it's kind of questing, but in a new way. It basically, I think Guild Wars 2 takes a lot of what MMOs are known for and reinvents it, to use a buzzword thrown in there. But generally, I don't know, it's just fun. 10 out of 10.
Review forums.
Does
It's just
anyone
fun.
else play
10
it
out of
besides
10.
I have, but I think my explanation of how I feel about the game would just kind of match Deadly's. It's just fun.
Can I give my explanation that I didn't vote for this because I thought this game was horrible?
Tricky.
That's just my 2
Oh.
We're not
Yeah.
allowed to stop. Okay. Well, glad we got that done with.
Ooh.
The tension is rising. Can you feel
You're
it?
So
just gonna sit there
iOS
and take
games,
that?
right? Whoosh! iOS games! Also
no.
technically Android. Whoosh! So, number 2, The World Ends With You Solo Remix. And number 1, Rayman Jungle Run. Yep.
Yay.
Does anybody care about iOS games? No?
I was going to mention the GTA Vice City port that came out recently, but that is a port, and I don't know if it would
Yes.
count.
Oh,
Well,
we
The
should
World
probably
Ends With You
also...
is on there. So,
Yeah, it's a remix though, which is why I counted it. We should also explain that these games are actually the games we list for each of the categories are very specific to these consoles only, meaning they exist only to these consoles, which is why they are on here. There are some small exclusions, like Solo Remix for The World Ends With You, which technically doesn't exist anywhere else. Yeah. That being said, let me explain Rayman Jungle Run. It looks amazing. It sounds amazing. It's just such a great portable game, and I think it utilizes phones the way they should be utilized in terms of gaming. You either get two things. You either get overextensive, or you get really cheap. And this game fits right in the middle. And I'll emphasize on how amazing this game looks for anybody who has one of the prettier phones. So, Yep, that is Game of the Year for iOS.
Awesome.
So new category, guys?
All right.
Yeah?
Sure, let's do
Yes,
that.
let's move on.
I'm not doing this one again. You guys could introduce this category. My throat hurts.
PS Vita. Number 3. Uncharted Golden Abyss. Number 2. Gravity Rush. And it's number 1. Persona 4 Golden. Bing bing.
That was amazing.
10 out of 10.
Wow.
When you did
Almost
number
as
one,
good as
you
our
should have
PS Vita
echoed
Game of the Year.
one as well.
Yeah, that no one was just wow.
I've actually wanted to do that like the majority of my life. Thank you.
His
That's
life
just your first
purpose is now
opportunity.
fulfilled.
So, like, Persona 4, what do you people think of it? I haven't played it.
I haven't played the
I have not
Persona
played it either.
series, but I have a friend who really loves them, and he's always telling me to play them, and maybe I shall. Maybe.
Who put this at the top? Nuna? I think
I
this was you.
did. Wow. Really? You? Oh, I guess. Okay. So, to kind of explain the Vita list, I think everybody and their mothers know that there isn't much to choose from. And the games that there are much to choose from, like, don't really expand on the Vita or kind of like give the Vita any sort of push the way it should be. And if there is any game that does that, it is Persona 4 Golden. And I think anybody who's ever played Persona needs no explanation as to why this game's at the top of the list. Yeah, it's sad to say that this is probably my only favorite solid game on the Vita, but it is, and it's definitely one of those games worth checking out if you have the Vita, and I will do that. I also check out the rest of the series because I don't understand why anybody would want this game without checking out the rest. And I'm gonna stop here because my throat really is starting to hurt.
Alright. Next up is 3DS. By the way, we are not going to have a DS thing on here, mainly because we feel like it's kind of time is up. There were some great games on there, like Pokemon Conquest and Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, but both of those were Pokemon games, so they get their own category. So Pokemon Conquest and Pokemon Black 2, White 2, they win their own category. So next up is 3DS, number 3, Code of Princess. And, you know, Tricky really liked this. So, Tricky, do you want to say anything about this?
Yeah, I definitely think if anyone hasn't heard of this or give it a try, you should, because it is really a fun game. And I think this has potential to, like, I mean, I know 3DS still has a lot of life left, but I think this game has potential to be in, like, the top sleeper hit category as long as the system is around, and definitely just think everyone should try it out.
That is until Bravely Default comes out, which I am crossing my fingers right now. You can't see that. And, okay, next up, number 2, Resident Evil Revelations. Apparently, I haven't played that personally, but it's a beautiful looking game, and it looks to be going back to its roots. So, anyone else care to say anything?
I'll say something
Better
about
than
it, I guess.
Resident Evil 6.
Yes, so that
yeah,
is
it's the game
100%
Resident
true.
6 should have been.
Well, that's not hard
Yeah.
to do, so...
Oh.
Ew. And finally, number 1, Kid Icarus Uprising. That game was awesome. Soundtrack was good, voice acting was good, graphics were good. Overall, it was a very solid game with a lot of playtime and content in it. And it was made by Masahiro Sakurai, so of course it's going to have a lot of time on it.
Yeah, that game was very well done.
It was a very Sakurai game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We should make a
definitely.
new genre for him. Sakurai. Alright, so next up we have the Xbox 360. Number 3, Dust: An Elysian Tale. Basically, Muramasa with animals. Number 2, Halo 4. Good game. And number 1, Fez. It finally came out.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
After.
So does anybody want to talk about this? Or
if you've ever watched Indie Game, the movie, we know that game took forever to.
I remember watching
release.
a gameplay trailer for it years ago. And when I found out it still hadn't come out, I was a bit like, what?
Alright, so I guess to sum up why this game is deserving of the Xbox 360 Game of the Year, it's basically just a 2D platformer with a really unique twist to it, where you can actually rotate the world into like three, or I don't really know how to explain it all that well, but into like you can rotate the world, and depending on how you have the world rotated, you're able to see different aspects of the level, and there's a lot of fun puzzles that you can get through that mechanic. So yeah, it really changes the way we can conceivably think of 2D platformers from now on.
It's also an absolutely beautiful game. That game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Is a work of art, and I'm glad it finally came out. So next up is the PS3, which is an interesting list, starting with number 3, Unfinished Swan. Very interesting game. Very interesting. And number 2, Okami HD should have been number 1. Need I say more? It's Okami HD. Play it now. Buy it. It's awesome. And finally, number 1, Journey. That game looks pretty amazing. It also has a great soundtrack, and it's a very unique premise. Nuna, do you have anything to say about it?
Yeah, it's just... This is kind of the obvious choice, I guess, for the PS3, but it's one of those games that kind of takes its concept so to heart, and that when you play the game, it really truly feels like a journey from the art style, which I don't understand. Like, it's so impeccably gorgeous. You could just pause the game and just stare at it. It's so clean and crisp. Down from the music, it's one of those games that give you the ultimate experience, and if you haven't played it, I really do suggest you do, because it's an experience it'll probably top like your experience in gaming, because it's that invoking. Yeah.
It looks absolutely amazing. I don't personally own a PS3, but if I were to get a PS3, that would be one of the games I would get. And all the other games that game company made.
Yeah, that game looks so good. I still need to play it, and I don't know why at this point I still haven't, but I'll get to it one of these days.
Alright, next up, the big category, Wii/Wii U. Starting with number 3, Mighty Switch Force! It's another exception to our rule of the whole port thing, but Mighty Switch Force for the 3DS was really good, and the Hyperdrive Edition on the Wii U is absolutely beautiful and kind of like steps it up a notch. So really,
it's also add that it is Mighty Switch Force. It's in HD with updated visuals, which is why it's important and everything.
And it's Hyperdrive Edition, so that's all cool. And then that brings us to number 2, Zombie U. The cricket bat game. Deadly's homeland.
My home city at that too.
It's what's currently going on outside of the walls of wherever Deadly's staying.
Oh yeah, because of course, being British and living in London, I must of course live like just across the street from Buckingham Palace.
I thought you lived in Buckingham Palace.
Oh yeah, of course.
Staying there?
Of course.
Okay.
I am the King of England, after all.
After all. And finally, number 1, It's roaring time with Xenoblade Chronicles. That game was amazing.
Personally, I wouldn't put this as a 2012 game because
It
I
came
know
out
it as
here
a
in
2011
2012,
game.
and that's what matters. It came out here in 2012.
Yeah, too
Deadly.
bad.
you guys are
America.
behind on
America. That's what's the problem here. Was we have a Englishman on here.
I actually had pointed that out when we were talking about it, but the only reason why I had such a hard time disputing that is because it came out actually like in April, so it wasn't even like in the beginning of the year. It was like heading towards the middle, like second quarter. So it's hard to even like dispute. Like it did come out in 2012. But that being said, I guess after they explain why it's number one, you can talk about your number one game of the year, England, man.
Yeah,
Is that his
what would
name
you
now?
say? What would you say the best is? We'll talk about Xenoblade Chronicles later. What do you think is
Yeah.
the best? Deadly.
I might bump Zombie U up to 1 and
Oh.
and from there keep, maybe add some other Wii U launch title like
Nintendo Land,
New Super Mario
Bros.
Bros. U or something like that
Alright.
in the number 3 spot.
All right. That sound pretty good. Next up, we have multi-platform handheld games. Now, this is going to be kind of a short one because there aren't very many multi-platform handheld titles that were released in the U.S., let alone this year. But coming up at number 2, Rayman Origins. The full title released for the console released last year, but the PS Vita and 3DS version came out this year, so that's why we're counting it for multi-platform handheld. And number 1, this one was very disputed, and I didn't do number 1 right. No, number 1, Virtue's Last Reward. Now we have a couple of people who really like this game.
Actually, I think we should probably save our talk for it for a little bit later. But
Yeah.
All right.
so that way we don't run our mouths now.
Foreshadowing, maybe? Number
Foreshadow.
Foreshadowing? Let's find out. Next up is multi-platform console game, starting with number 3, Mass Effect 3. Now, despite all the whole ending crud that was going all over the internet and everyone getting up in arms about that, that's a different story. But the game as a whole was really good. And then number 2, Borderlands 2. That game, I haven't personally played that, but I played the original Borderlands, and that game looks really, really good. And finally, number 1, The Walking Dead, which we'll talk about more in the future. And next up, for soundtrack, we have number 3, Virtue's Last Reward. I haven't personally heard the soundtrack myself.
It's really a contemporary, like it's not even like techno-ish. It's very modern plays on like just digital sounds. It's a cool sounding soundtrack if anybody ever wants to check it out.
Yeah, it also really complements the game as a whole. So, yeah.
Next up is number 2 with Journey. You know, with such great hits on their soundtrack, like what is that name? Mignaga.
I just won't tell, girl.
Oh yeah, that in a lonely world. Yeah.
Took the midnight train going anywhere.
Yeah, didn't that game get nominated for some kind of award for the soundtrack? Because I mean, with hits like that, you can't go wrong.
With hits like that, I mean, you have to get nominated for something. It's just such an extraordinary soundtrack. And then finally, number 1, Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm tired of talking.
Okay.
Someone else say something about this.
I'll talk about this one. This one, it's good. That is all. No, I'm not really sure what I can say about it because I like it or I love it so much. Like every piece of music is so well like thought out and fits the environment that it's trying to, or that it goes into, and just it's so good. Just if you haven't listened to it, just go listen to it, and I think that's the best way to really know it.
Yeah. Though it wasn't my first personal choice, I can't like deny that it's so epic sounding, and I think that's just the word to describe that soundtrack. Epic.
It puts you in like kind of the idea that you are on these like massive creatures, and it makes you, it kind of like expands upon that feeling of awe, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
But
yeah, so we ready for the next category?
Yes.
All right, so next on our list we have art direction. And so I'm not nearly as good at sound effects as Soul, so maybe I'll have him do my sound effects. So I'll just make a sound,
Cheater.
and then I'll say number 3, and then announce the title. Number 3, Nintendo Land. And we know this is probably not going to be something you'd necessarily understand until we kind of explain it to you. So, yeah, we'll do that. Basically, our thinking with that was that each environment, it's all the environments have like similar kinds of feels, yet they look totally different. I'm not explaining this very well because I know Noon, you were the one that justified it pretty much. So, do you have anything to say?
I'll use the example I keep using. The game never forgets that it's supposed to give you a carnival feel, and you see this throughout every single mini game you play. The bosses you fight are like these cool steampunkish mechanical monsters. Even down to your clothing. Like for Zelda, you're in this like stitched costume. Even for Pikmin, you're literally your Mii is in a costume. And the color palette, I mentioned this, though it's so different for every game, they still manage to stay under the same effect. Yeah, so please continue on.
well, a lot of the stuff that it does, like, okay, all the attractions have different styles, like we were saying, that Metroid, the Metroid Blast attraction looks like it was pulled straight out of a Tron world. It's very cyberpunk looking, and all the mechanics are very, very nice looking. That's one of the things about it, is that everything looks like it was formulated in real life, in like what we would see in an actual Nintendo Land park. We said earlier Zelda looked like it was formed out of yarn, and it looked all the monsters were very steampunk like, and the Deku tree, if you ever see that thing in the world, it looks like a steampunk tree. And the Pikmin adventure area looks like it took place right inside of a garden, with all the potted plants around, and fences, picketed fences, and then everything has its own unique style, including like the Balloon Trip one has a kind of a diorama look to it, and that's what stands out to us for this game's art direction. Is it looks like it could have actually been made if like the technology existed.
Yeah, it's just very clever. I guess it's the shortest way to put it. Very clever.
Alright, next up is number 2, Okami HD. And do I have to explain? No, I don't.
No, go on.
Because it's Okami, which already had like one of the best art directions ever, and it's now in HD,
and now
so
you
it
got
looks
it again in
so clean and
2012.
everything.
Basically, it's just another excuse for Soul to plaster Okami into every single possible Game of the Year position.
Deadly, don't push me. I can turn this entire podcast into an Okami discussion. Just watch me. Just watch me.
I'd rather
Number
not.
1!
Number one, Journey again. Like, I don't understand how a band can be a art direction, but that's fine.
Well, music is art, after all.
True.
Yes, it is. And he was just a city boy living in South Detroit, and he took the midnight train.
Going anywhere. And now we have our character discussions. We couldn't figure out what our favorite characters of the year were, so we're gonna real quick go down our personal favorite characters, starting with Nuna.
Oh, I'm gonna cheat. One of my favorite characters is actually another person on this podcast favorite character, so I won't mention them. Another one is Tenmyoji for Virtue's Last Reward, simply because he takes the concept of the game, turns it on its head within like 2 lines, and it becomes one of the most impactful moments of the game. He was just so developed and written so well throughout the entire thing. And tied with the other 2 characters would be the cast of Kid Icarus, because they are hilarious. They bring a smile to my face, and they brighten up everything around me, even if I'm in a dumpster at the moment. So, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that whole thing, or the characters that you named. I think my favorite character of this year was Clementine from The Walking Dead, and I liked her so much because she was so well developed and well written that you actually care for her and you actually want to see her survive and do good in this horrible environment that she's been thrust into, and that's not something you can say a lot about child characters in media. So yeah, I guess that's just my favorite character of the year.
Agreed.
My favorite character. Now I'm gonna have to think of. I didn't have this planned. I wasn't at the planning session last week.
Then let's move to Tricky. Do you have someone ready?
I think my favorite character would be Allegro from Code of Princess. He is by far probably one of the funniest characters, and like, some characters can be really annoying, and like he managed to be really funny and obnoxious without being annoying, and I just loved him. He was hilarious.
Allegro from Code of Princess, by the way.
Yes.
I'll go next while Deadly's thinking. My favorite character was Legion from Mass Effect 3. Legion...
I thought you were going to pick Amaterasu.
No, that makes me too predictable. I told
you
you
mean
guys.
Okami the Wolf.
I'm going to ignore you now. Legion from Mass Effect 3. Now, he is a robot. It is a robot, and that would make it kind of... Usually, the character would be kind of hard to choose since it's a robot, but throughout the Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 storyline, Legion kind of develops into more of a sentient character, and when... Alright, I'm going to give a spoiler alert. 3, 2, 1. When he dies, I felt so bad about it, and I absolutely... I wanted to like redo that entire storyline to see if I could save him, but unfortunately there's no way. So, spoiler alert is over. You can no longer do that. And Deadly, what is yours? Since Deadly is still thinking, I'm going to choose some other characters from my list to talk about.
No.
Another character would be Amaterasu.
No, Deadly!
Deadly, hurry up and think of something, please.
Realistically, I'm going to just talk about some of my other characters. My number 2 was Shulk. I was going to choose Rhine because it's Rhine time all the time, every time. But I chose Shulk because Shulk really develops as a character, and it's hard to talk about him without giving away spoilers, because he was a really good character, and his entire storyline really wants you to continue to try and save the character that he goes out on this journey for in the first place, with the way he feels about it and everything. And Deadly, have you figured it out yet? Nope. Number 3, for me, was Cortana from Halo 4 because she's looks like my list is full of spoiler alerts. Spoiler alert! 3, 2, 1. When since Cortana kind of dies at the very end, if you could say that for an AI, she really kind of develops in the last few minutes, and like throughout the entire story, like you realize that you're losing your like lifetime partner finally, and she kind of during the entire game she makes it really hard to make that transition. Spoiler alert, over. Deadly, please tell me you have thought of something. I
don't think I have a single crowning one, but I suppose like you're right in the Halo series, like with Cortana and Master Chief, they have produced quite a strong bond there, especially with Halo 4. Also, as Kid Icarus is the #1 3DS game, I generally like the comical nature of the characters in that game. Especially Pitt himself. So that could be another memorable moment. With that whole Sakurai charm to it. Definitely up there in the year's list.
Alright, and then finally, the big Game of the Year category. We only have 2 spots in this one, which will be revealed now with number 2. Wait a second.
Oh,
That was a
before we get
tease,
to-
everyone.
Oh yeah, cock blocked by the cat. Meow. Are there any games that you guys played that didn't make it on the list that you were in love with? Tricky?
Yeah. I know I have something, but I really didn't think of it beforehand, so I'm gonna pull Deadly right now.
Yeah. I do. It's somewhere in there, but I have nothing to say about it.
Oh, I was gonna say for one of my favorite games this year was Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm. I thought that was pretty close to top 3. I love that game.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I'm gonna speak for myself and Mignaga when I say Final Fantasy 13-2. That game was great.
The game that I only put 10 hours in and then never played again.
Don't worry, Mig. I haven't
So
beat it
sad.
either, but that's because I'm on one of those things that every single JRPG decides to do, where they're like, guess what? We decided that we can't find out anything else that you can do that's actually part of a fun storyline. So go collect 20 different things for us.
Does it
Thank
really
you.
devolve into that?
There's just one portion of the game, and I don't know if I can skip it or not, but I stopped playing for a little bit because of that. So I need to get back to that.
Deadly?
We covered mostly everything, but like I said before, I think we need a few more Wii U games in there, like New Super Mario Bros. U and all that. And if we're counting ports, this came out last year in America, but Metal Gear Solid HD Collection came out this year in Europe. And
I don't
it's still
believe we
just
got
so
a
good.
I wouldn't count that as a port because we didn't get a HD collection. We did get an HD collection, but we didn't get a HD collection. I can tell you that.
Oh, you're such a jerk.
I was just about to say.
It's
Soul.
just instinct. Because it begins with a H, I have to put a H sound into it.
Ignoring Soul's being a jerkiness. I guess,
I love you
oh,
all.
I had one.
I have
oh,
one
there's
real
Zone of the
quick.
Ender HD.
Oh, go ahead if you have
Oh.
one.
No, it's okay. Go.
Okay, basically all I wanted to say was I really enjoyed Lollipop Chainsaw. Even though it was the dumbest game ever made, I still had so much fun just blasting through it. So even though it doesn't belong on Game of the Year, I think it's definitely one of my favorites from this year.
I guess, personally, Zone of the Enders HD collection gets a shout out. And there's just a slew of 3DS eShop games that are so quality and golden that came out this year.
I am so glad that the eShop is actually good and not a piece of crud like the DSiWare was. There's only like 3 games on there that were good.
Yeah, like there's just so many good titles that came out. The Liberation Maiden and the Guild 0 titles, obviously. Crash Mode came out recently. It's just beautiful, beautiful.
This was a great
land.
3DS year, absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
At least
Made up completely for last year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then even next year looks
really
incredibly strong.
I thought too that like we probably even though like this was like the last year of the Wii, I think we probably could have had like Wii and Wii U separate, because I just like with Last Story and Pandora's Tower and Xenoblade Chronicles, like, and then I think we could have picked some other titles on the Wii U. I thought it was strong enough.
Yeah, I thought the 3DS really brought it home this year. Last year did have some really good games, but all of them were like at the very end, packed into like December and November, and that was the gist of like what came out. But this year had some pretty nice titles, and despite what all the critics say, New Super Mario Bros. 2 is really fun, and Coin Rush is addicting. And does anyone else have anything that we need to add before we go to our Game of the Year? Alright, Game of the Year time. Like I said, Game of the Year is composed of 2 spots. And that will be explained when we go to number 2. The Walking Dead and Virtue's Last Reward. Now, before we go on to a discussion of this, the reason why both of these games are in the spot is because we had an awesome debate that we will try and kind of recreate here about why these games why these 2 games were so awesome, and which one would be put into the number 2 spot. And so we decided to put both of them in the number 2 spot. And Nuna will be talking about VLR, and Meg will be talking about The Walking Dead. So, whoever wants to go first.
I guess I will. Oh wait, no, you want to go?
I can if you want me to.
Okay, you can go.
Alright, so Walking Dead. Before I touch on that though, Sol, you said that we had an epic discussion, and when I said earlier that we talked for like quite a while about what games we wanted to put on these lists, it was like 99% of that talk was between these 2 games, just achieving number 1 or not even number 1, number 2 or number 3 slots. And we decided at the end that we just couldn't pick between the 2 because each of us were presenting good arguments for each one. So yeah, without further ado, here's why I believe that The Walking Dead belongs above Virtue's Last Reward. Even though I like them both, I think Walking Dead is a better game and will have more impact on the industry as a whole than Virtue's Last Reward will, and here's why. I think Walking Dead really changed... I can't think of the genre. Point-and-click adventure games, that's it.
Adventure.
It really changed the way we were going to see point-and-click adventure games start to develop in the future. In the past, they used to be just about how does this coffee mug interact with this doorknob or something like that, and it's all about figuring out puzzles within the game's logic, whereas this one was more about the story and the characters and making your own choices that will impact things later down the line. For example, like a choice that you make or if you don't know, a choice that you make in episode 1 could conceivably have a very negative impact in episode 5 or, something like that. I guess Noon made the point that while it doesn't really branch off too much, it does, or it kind of stays contained to one story, which I responded with saying that I liked that because I felt like even though my choices did impact it to a certain extent, it didn't change the way that the story progresses or the way that the ending happens. And I think I like that better because it just seems like a more realistic take on moral choices where, yes, you're making these hard decisions, but no, not every single one of them is going to have a negative or positive impact in the end. And I actually kind of like that. So, yeah, before I rant too much about this game, I'll let Noon take over with Virtue's Last Reward.
And before that, I want to insert a pun real quick because that is necessary. The reason why you like The Walking Dead is because your decisions don't have a mass effect later. Is that what you're saying?
I really want to laugh at that, but I can't bring myself to. So
I already
I'm just going to let Noon take over.
Just shaking
Tricky.
my head.
Wow, I had like thoughts in my head. You said that. Whoosh! Where did they go? I don't know. I'm looking for them. Can't grab any.
Well, you can just let me talk about Okami.
Anyway, I won't exactly dispute with Mig. I think when it comes to these two games, it comes down to preference of style because, like he said, the pivotal moments of Walking Dead do remain the same. But the fact that every choice you make actually does not influence the pivotal moments at all was something I had an issue with because though I agree with the concept that consequences won't, that choices won't exactly always have a consequence, certain choices will in life. And that's actually an idea that Virtue's Last Reward plays with very, very well. The idea of consequence and the kind of effect it can have on people's perception of you and your perception of other people. It toys with your emotion. This game is probably one of the best games I've played, along with its predecessor, with emotional manipulation. It gets you so in the moment, and it's just, the gameplay is also so well done. And it's not so much where you pick everything. There are puzzles in the game as well. There's also this thing called a flow chart where you get to like jump back in time to redo a decision because like I said, there's in a review there's 24 different endings to this game. I feel like in this game you have a broader choice of freedom in terms of morality and choice making, whereas The Walking Dead kind of limits you and limits your thought on that topic in general. But that isn't to say that these two games do something very well, and that's invoke emotions into different characters. They both build character relationships so well, and in the end, they both get you thinking more about gameplay, but about story as well, which is something I feel like have been lost in games. Everything you do in these games influence the story in some way, and I haven't seen this in such a long time in games, and I think this is why both of us have gone back and forth, because these two games were both my personal favorite games of the year and his favorite games of the year. We just happen to like more one than the other, but I think it's safe to say that because these games have done something in gaming that we think have been lost, to see them presented again this year has more than made this year for me, and I'm so glad to see these games come to light. And though I think The Walking Dead will be the one that's more remembered simply because it's just more popular, I am very, very happy that the genre itself is at least gaining popularity. It's something that's so close to me. I love text adventures and graphic novels. So to see it get some sort of limelight and this immense critical and popular notice is great, and I really do hope to see more of this because, like I said, I think story in games have been lost, and yeah, it's nice to see that focus again.
Wow. And that is a very small rundown of what happened the other day.
Yeah.
So
that's the abridged version of the abridged version. It's just that.
That is a very abridged version. For those of you who don't know our schedule, which is everyone who is listening, we usually have a meeting on the weeks we aren't recording, on a Friday from 6 to 9. Well, this one went from 6 to 2 in the morning. So we kind of went on for a while, and it finally ended when I lost my mind and was laughing for about 10 minutes because Link had a derpy face. But that's that's for another time. But there is a game that actually won this category.
Yeah.
And that is number 1, Xenoblade Chronicles. We alluded to this for quite a bit, and yes, it did come out in the great UK last year, but it came out in America quite recently, and we thought it was just such a great JRPG that it deserved the number 1 spot, despite the fact that Okami is awesome as well.
Don't even.
But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about Xenoblade.
Exactly.
Xenoblade is a 90. It took me like 90 hours to complete that game, and I'm pretty sure I enjoyed every little minute of it. It was very, very good. Does anyone else have anything to say about it?
It does a lot of unique things within the RPG genre, that even just simple things like having quests or side quests that auto-complete themselves instead of you having to go back to like talk to some NPC that you can't remember their location for the life of you. Even simple things like that are totally revolutionary within the genre, and I think that's what makes Xenoblade Chronicles so great, is it's because it's a return to greatness of the genre, which we haven't seen all that many JRPGs this console cycle. And on top of it being a return to greatness, it also innovates quite a bit, and I think that's why it deserves our personal game of the year, or our game of the year for overall.
I just want to add too, like, I think what really set this apart, and I think if anything, Xenoblade Chronicles is really going to help progress the JRPG genre, which it is in desperate need of. Is I really enjoyed how they opened up the quest system they actually incorporated kind of like a MMO type quest system where just random people poke throughout the city with quest givers you can grab. So it's not just go from point A to point B to point C, and there's all these different quests that you can choose to pick up or not. And also, for being a Wii game, I thought this is probably the most gorgeous game on the system.
Yes, I agree with everything you just said. Like, the game absolutely has innovated a stagnant genre. The JRPG genre has just kind of been sitting there on its... just sitting there doing nothing, which the creator of Mega Man has been saying about Japanese games in general. He's been saying for a long time that it's the whole Japanese market has just been kind of sitting there doing the same thing. And Xenoblade Chronicles tries to take a page from other games and tries to make it different by there are some Western RPG ideas in there, such as like we said, auto-completed quests, and also the idea of fast travel, which is rarely implemented into JRPGs, but is something that's very popular in games that Bethesda makes. And in a recent article that came up, Monolith Studios, the guys who made Xenoblade, they talked about their next game and them taking like a lot of ideas from Western RPG developers such as Bethesda. So it really shows in this game of how like Japanese ideas can mix with Western ideas to make a really addicting and long experience that has a very cohesive story surrounding it. And that's what it really feels like. It feels like a JRPG, WRPG like mix-up where there's a lot of content to do outside of the story and a lot of amazing locations to explore and a combat system that's very fun to get involved with and try and explore. But it also has the storyline and deep character development that's not sappy like other JRPGs constantly do, and all the characters are very believable and have good motives, and some of them are over the top, but that's for another time. That's for Ryan time. So
I just want to add really quick too, is to kind of like talk what you're saying about how like Monolith they have mentioned they want to try to be more like Bethesda, and how Japanese games in general, and I know it's been a lot of Japanese developers that have been speaking this, where they really need to start progressing beyond the typical Japanese style game. But I also want to add, like, my personal hope, because I love Japanese games, I love quirky games, I like their style, and I'm all for them progressing, but I also don't want to see them try to emulate the West so much that suddenly they lose their identity as what we love about Japanese games.
And that's what Xenoblade is, pretty much. It is that blend between the two, that it kind of takes the best of both worlds and puts them together into a cohesive manner. It doesn't feel disjointed, and it doesn't feel like it's out of place in any way. It just kind of it works together very well. And you said earlier that the graphics look great, and they do. But that's also my only problem with the game in general. Is it's not so much a problem, but it's more of the thought of, what if this was on the Wii U? Like, what would it look like? And that's what really makes me excited for Monolith's next game.
Yeah, I think about that every time I play that. What would happen if they developed it for the Wii U?
Which is hopefully what we will get to see in some form next
year. Am I the only one that would love to see like an HD trilogy of those the Operation Rainfall, or the 3 Operation Rainfall games, like Xenoblade, Last Story, and then Pandora's Tower? Just have like one Wii U disc with all 3 of those games in HD.
You know, now that you say that, I think that would have been a better route for Nintendo of America to take. Like, instead of... And when they announced all of these games coming out, like, when the Wii U was announced. So they could have done is been like, yeah, we're going to release all of these, but be patient, because you could get it soon. And we want you to see it.
Oh, man.
Nintendo's
not in the fun business like you are, though.
Well, I don't know. They are into fruits.
Yeah, hundreds of paid PR people doesn't amount to half of what Soul has.
Yeah, honestly, like, if I were their marketing team, like when Star Fox 64 3D came out, I would have like the press release say, Star Fox 64 3D barrel rolls into shelves this September. And that would be one of them. And then what else? New Super Mario Bros. 2 rushes to the finish line in whenever it came out. And Mario Kart 7 races into stores this December.
Can you please stop now? Please. I'm just joking. I think you're starting to stretch towards the end there.
I was trying.
He was running out
of
ideas by the end.
Guitar Hero shreds into stores. Oh wait, that's not gonna happen. Alright, so we're gonna run down the list one last time. Zero interruptions. Ready, set, go. PC games. Number 1, Guild Wars 2. Number 2, Diablo 3. Number 3, Torchlight 2. 3DS, Kid Icarus Uprising for number 1. Number 2, Resident Evil Revelations. And number 3,
spell as well, or speak as well as they can spell.
Alright, fine, you do this. You do this. After I say
okay,
Code of
am I
number
doing
3,
this?
Code
okay.
of Princess.
Number 3, Code of Princess. PS Vita, Persona 4 The Golden. Number 2 for PS Vita, Gravity Rush. Number 3, Uncharted. For PS3, number 1, Journey. Number 2, Okami HD. Number 3, Unfinished Swan. For 360, Fez is number 1. Number 2 is Halo 4. Number 3 is Dust and Elysian Tale. For Wii U and Wii, Xenoblade Chronicles is number 1. Number 2 is Zombie U. Number 3 is Mighty Switch Force HD. For iOS, number 1 is Rayman Jungle Run. Number 2 is The World Ends With You Solo Remix. Best multi-platform handheld games. Number 1 is Virtue's Last Reward. Number 2 is Rayman Origins. For best multi-platform home console, number 1 is The Walking Dead, 2 is Borderlands 2, and 3 is Mass Effect 3. Soundtrack, number 1 is Xenoblade Chronicles, number 2 is Journey, and number 3 is Virtue's Last Reward. Art direction, number 1 is Journey, number 2 is Okami HD, number 3 is Nintendo Land. And for Game of the Year, number 1 is Xenoblade Chronicles, and number 2 is The Walking Dead and Virtue's Last Reward.
Woo! Good guys.
Hooray.
Good job.
Yay.
Yeah.
So that's
So
our
enthusiastic.
that's
Wow.
our entire list. Well, you were just about as enthusiastic as we were, Nuna. So
I couldn't talk. I have an excuse.
obviously you can talk.
Look,
Mm-hmm.
I did a whole podcast with a cold. You can do this with a slightly
You did a
hurt
whole
throat.
podcast with a deadly virus.
Exactly.
Deadly.
Technically, we all did.
Very nice, Tricky. I was expecting Mignaga to say something like that. You're slow today. But good job, Tricky. You're evolving into a Mignaga.
Oh no.
That should be taken as the greatest form of compliment ever.
Okay. Deadly.
I feel like a Pokemon.
Yeah, that's what I was going for with that soundtrack.
Okay, go.
Can we get
Deadly-
on with saying to me no?
Deadly. Now I'm gonna let you talk for a little bit. So, what would you say your game of the year is? Since overall game of the year, since Xenoblade Chronicles got ours and that released in 2011 for you, what is your personal game of the year?
My personal game of the year.
You're stalling and you know it.
He had a stroke in between each word.
So I just had about 5 strokes there.
He's stalling. He's stalling. Come on.
I just wanted to make it dramatic. I might have to say something like Guild Wars 2 or possibly. Now, I have to say it could change because there's a few 2012 games I have not played yet. Like Halo 4 I'm pretty sure I might be getting for Christmas. And I've read up a lot about it. And
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
The only thing
Go on.
that we didn't hear of that sentence was the actual name of the title.
Halo 4.
Okay.
HALO number 4.
Like, you cut out for Halo 4, and that's about it. I would have to say is...
My microphone is conspiring against me.
I'm sure it is. Just like all of us here. Oops, I messed that up, didn't I, guys?
Okay, go on. Favorite game of the year?
Oh, so yeah, either something like Guild Wars 2, possibly Halo 4 when I play it, or maybe Zombie U or something to that extent.
Well,
Alright.
good job, Deadly. Sorry, Deadly. I meant Deadly. Nice
I
job.
believe I was done. So
She said trickily, so... Yeah, I think she's congratulating you
Trickily?
both.
is that
No, we have a new
fusion
Carlos.
of me
This
and
is not gonna be
Tricky?
good.
With me and Deadly
Trickly.
combined, we are Trickly Virus. Fusion!
That being said, this seems to have been a pretty good year in gaming. But it was also a pretty eventful year. So, was there anything that you guys were like jumping for glee for, or were pretty disappointed in terms of news in the gaming industry at all, or any events that took place?
Well, I have 2 things that I think I can share. One thing that I found was good is that a Suda51 game actually sold more than 5 copies.
Woo!
So that's a good thing. And I think the worst moment for me was probably when Cliff Bleszinski resigned from Epic Studios, because I'm a huge fan of him. So, yeah.
Yeah. That was a pretty sad moment.
It does suck,
And before,
especially since he's not even in the gaming industry anymore. We lost a couple guys this year, it seems.
Actually, it was announced that he is making a new studio, so I'm happy about that. It's just the fact that when that was announced, I got really sad at the time. Anyways,
who's the? Is it Keiji Inafuda who made Mega Man?
Inafune?
Is that the guy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Inafune,
Yeah, we lost. Capcom lost him. Nice job,
Capcom
guys.
lost him, but the gamers did not lose him.
That was very philosophical. I enjoyed that.
Nice job. Yeah.
Like,
When's
I
this
feel,
game coming out again?
I feel really smart now.
Was it next year?
I bet so. I don't think it will be this year unless it comes out in 10 days.
No.
No.
Unless it's a surprise Christmas release, you know.
I still hope it comes
Yeah.
out in a Wii U too.
We also lost 38 studios. Well, we kind of got and lost 38 studios, it seems like. Even though they were technically founded in 2006, this is the only game, Kingdoms of Amalur is the only game they got out, I think. So, that was kind of sad.
Yeah.
Did anyone play
Also,
that?
the head guy from BioWare, Ray Mazuka, he left BioWare as well.
Both
and
of
that
them
kinda
did.
sucks.
Both
yeah,
of the
Ray and
both
Greg.
the doctors
Yep.
did, and they're doing stuff with beer now. From what I
Yes, my other favorite thing besides gaming, so I'm okay with that.
Wow.
Are they both your favorite? Like, do they work well together? So
They do. I love video games, and I brew my own beer, and I'm a huge beer snob, so I love them both.
Wow.
you brew your own. This
The more
is
you
this
know.
is good. We're also losing. We're not lost, but we're losing to THQ right now.
But
Oh, yeah.
I mean, on a plus note for those who haven't heard, I posted it in the forums that Ubisoft is looking to acquire all of their assets, so that can be pretty cool as well.
Does that include studios, like all the devs they own?
That will include pretty much all their IPs, and I mean, yeah, I mean it would include the studios, but I mean it's obviously I would imagine Ubisoft would probably close most of them down or bring them internal or something if it does
I hope-
happen. And
I hope they
I'm at least
keep the,
happy that it's a good studio like Ubi.
I hope they keep the Saints Row team.
oh
Is
yeah,
that-
Volition.
needs to stay together.
Yeah,
I don't know, because it was quite obvious they're working on Saints Row 4 already, but I
Yeah,
just feel like the
maybe-
series has kind of gone a bit downhill. Just
I
personally.
don't know. Saints Row 3 was pretty well received, and
It was well received, but I just feel like Saints Row 2 was better in a lot of ways. Not to say that Saints Row 3 didn't improve on a lot of things, but I also feel it regressed a lot.
Yeah. I was thinking, I mean, like if Ubisoft were to get THQ's IPs, I mean, what guys like what IPs do you guys think would benefit the most from Ubisoft picking them up?
I
Definitely,
think Saints Row would develop
Saints Row.
the best one, because we all know how insane that series is, and just imagine how insane it's going to be when there's rabbits running around everywhere.
that would actually be the best thing ever.
Oh, they
I
need a
think-
Rayman costume or something in Saints Row 4 now.
Like you just see some gangster walking around on the street, and he's like, "Oh no!" And all of a sudden, like you hear, "Ah!" and rabbits start going across the screen and everything like that. And he goes,
Oh,
"I
man.
don't get paid enough for this stuff."
It could be a cheat or something like rabbit mode, and you just have rabbits like
No,
flooding.
It should be
entire
the
streets.
central. It should be the central idea of the game. Like that's the entire basis of the game is that.
Well, it would be
That would
taking
be
it to a whole
interesting.
new level of insanity.
I also think too that Red Faction I think would be a good pickup for Ubisoft as well.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
THQ actually pretty much said they were never going to make any more Red Faction games. Ubisoft might have a different attitude to it, hopefully.
If Ubisoft gets it, I think they might get Metro Last Light back in production for the Wii U,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and maybe Company of Heroes too. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
As long as
I was hoping
Ubisoft...
too, like they bring some of the classics back. There's some games that THQ had out, like even like back on like the PS1 days that I thought that like they came out with like one game. I know they had a couple RPGs like surprisingly back in the day. They're actually fairly good, and they never did anything with them. I'd like to see those come back.
What do you guys think about the Darksider series going over to them?
I'm okay with
They'll
that.
probably be better off, I think. Because Ubisoft is much more stable.
Well, I guess let's put it this way: is there any series that wouldn't be better off going to Ubisoft?
No. Case closed, no.
No, you know what? Wouldn't Destroy All Humans, because the last thing that game needs is Rabbids.
But
I would argue the opposite. I think the first thing that series needs is Rabbids.
look, if Ubisoft can make the first Destroy All Humans game in 4 years, that's good enough by my book, you know. I've been waiting 4 years for another game in that series, and it's never coming.
One last
think
thing.
Wasn't the
I
last
should
one that
think-
came out on the Wii or something? I remember playing one of them that was on the
Yeah.
Wii.
The last one came out on
the
PS3
Big
and
Willy
360, but it wasn't made by the original developers. Because they were bought out by EA and then shut down like 3 years ago. So
Oh, okay.
the original charm is pretty much gone.
One other game we didn't discuss on this was South Park: The Stick of Truth. And that's a thing. Nope. Okay.
Wait, is that out? Is that
That's coming
released?
out. That's coming out, but it's under development by published by THQ and developed by Obsidian.
Hmm.
And Obsidian made Fallout New Vegas, I think.
Yep, and
And
they're
they
currently
also
making
made
that Kickstarter game, Project Eternity.
Project
was it?
Eternity. Yeah.
Yep.
Apparently, they're doing the Wheel of Time. That's all it says. That's weird. That's a book series, isn't it? I think it is. Oh well.
Yes, it is. Wheel of Time is a book series.
So should we move on to the biggest disappointments?
I think we
Of
threw that in there
2012.
too.
Also,
Right.
did anyone mention the Wii U launch is the best thing that happened yet?
I was saving that for last.
In a certain way.
Okay, I was gonna say. I mean, I think that's a pretty monumental thing for 2012.
Well, the Wii U launch was great. The Wii U launch party was horrendous, and that was my most disappointing thing of the year. No, actually, it wasn't. That was pretty horrendous, though.
Nuna, you got to meet JonTron.
Oh,
You
that's
got to meet JonTron.
Have you told that story on the podcast?
I don't think I have.
No, not on the
Okay.
podcast, no.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess so what happened was we were on the line, and they had just given out our numbered bracelets, and like the store had been closed for like 30 minutes. It's about 30 minutes after they gave us our numbered bracelets. JonTron with some really short girl comes by, and he's like trying to open the store, and he turns to us and he's like, "Is the store open?" And we're like, "No." And he was just like, "Oh, I was just trying to pick up some GameCube controllers." And then he walks like back and forth for like 2 seconds. He flashes us a creepy smile when we yell his name. We take a picture, he leaves. And that was how we met JonTron.
Who was the
That
short
sounds
girl?
about right for him.
I like the idea that he went there to buy GameCube controllers. Like, I guarantee that he was
goes
like,
there on the day of the Wii U launch. He goes there to buy GameCube controls.
Actually, this was
Not
like,
only does he fly halfway across the country, he just wait, okay, I screwed that joke up. he goes halfway or all the way across the country from California to New York just to buy GameCube controllers at Nintendo World on the Wii U's launch.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a day before the Wii U launch. Also, I think he might have been kidding, but it was one of those tones where I just wasn't sure whether or not he was being completely serious, because they don't sell GameCube controllers anymore at this store, by the way. So I was just staring at him for like...
It's JonTron. Of course he was kidding. He's great at this.
He is, because I was thoroughly convinced. I was going to tell you, like, they don't sell GameCube controllers here. I don't know. I was confused throughout the entire thing. I got a great picture, though. Somehow.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of which, this is actually has nothing to do with anything. But one of my disappointing things this year, it's not entirely gaming related. It's more like nerd culture related. But females this year had such a backlash from industry officials everywhere, and I think that might have like caused a lot of people themselves to create this huge backlash against female nerds. And it's not that this wasn't an issue before, but it was particularly a bad issue this year, and I personally have had to deal with it. And it's just, I'm not sure why this issue even exists, but the fact that it was.
What is the whole issue? Like,
Can we name an incident in particular?
Oh, you guys. The issue is that, in particular, attractive female nerds are fake, apparently.
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of bullcrap.
Yeah, Nuna. I know you.
I agree though.
saying-
I agree with Niren though. Like I think that was a pretty crappy thing in 2012 because now it seems like now they got like that TV show like the King of Nerds coming out, and it's really it's really starting to become more like popular to be like it's more cool to be nerdy. And I think a lot of people see like attractive women and they automatically don't think that they can be nerdy, and ones who are they call them fake, and it's totally not true, because I'll tell you that like I think most of the girls I know that are nerds are very attractive people and they're really cool. They're definitely not fake at all.
I don't think there's ever
Yeah.
been a point in which nerds were unattractive, really, because there's not a thing where less physically attractive people are suddenly more inclined to have nerdy interests.
I completely
Thank
I
you.
think so, at least.
Yep.
And I'm definitely not saying them like attractive or anything like that, but
You're right.
the
I'm
fact
saying
that.
Oh, let us back up. Brownie party.
And so love blossoms in the air. Anyway, like
chicken.
I this year have had to.
Sorry,
like,
real quick, what was that?
I know.
That was me putting my love tokens into my little jar. It makes it's my brownie points going into the jar, but I call them love tokens because that sounds more nerdy.
Okay, thank you for
I-
clarifying
was
that,
creepy,
because I was
I
very
was
confused.
I was going to say my love tokens into the arcade machine, but then that started to sound really weird, so I decided to back away from that.
This certainly does sound a bit odd.
And maybe after I get 200 in there, no, never mind, I'm done.
Meow.
Howl.
Yeah, but again, it goes back like, I mean, who decided that depending on what you look like depends on what your hobbies or classification has to be. I mean, I'm not saying that all nerd girls are attractive, nor are all nerd guys attractive, but the same goes for every walk of life.
Yeah, I agree. I'm tired of having my love for anything like questioned because I'm a female, and it needs to stop. Guys, I get it. You like being manly. Get over it. It exists. It's a thing. Females can like nerdy things. I'm not even sure where the gender discrimination even came from, and it sucks even more because there is a ton of gender discrimination in these mediums as a whole, like the way females are usually portrayed. So the fact that the female fandom themselves also have to receive this huge backlash, just stop it. Just make it disappear or something.
Two things to say to that. One is, like, I think anyone, like, me personally, I think when I go to anime conventions, I would say that there are probably more females at anime cons than males are.
Yeah.
Also, like, I hate to say it, because as much as I love, like, Japanese culture and everything, Japan is probably the worst offender of
Yes.
this, because
Oh, yeah.
you look like, I mean, even, like, it's even referred to in so much anime. I mean, if you're a girl and you're, like, a female, you know, otaku, to say, in, like, Japan, I mean, you can never tell people. It's always hidden, because, you know, people find out, it's like, oh no, it's the end of the world. I think that's the worst of all.
Well, I
Japan
also
is a very,
think
very strict culture in general, though. So I feel like it's a broader problem that extends beyond just females.
I think it's also kind of this stereotype that goes around, because me personally, at my school, there's not very many nerd girls, quote unquote. Like, girl gamers aren't very big, and that's because games are something that are usually like, oh, all these guys always play it, they're always talking about it, whatever. And I think it's somewhat self-imposed, but that self-imposition also we get the idea from the people who self-impose it, and so then we impose that upon the other people. So I think it
Yeah.
kind of like originates from girls who aren't nerds, and then that kind of translates over to guys and what they feel.
Yeah, I guess just a final comment. A lot of the argument I personally receive is that, well, video games are meant to be, like, for guys only, so blah, 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 blah. My argument for
Who
this,
says that?
a lot of
we
people,
could-
like,
Yeah,
a lot
I
of the
think
That
that's
arguments
sounds
I've
so
found
generic,
back
though. Like,
it is, and my
did
issue
we go
with
back
this
to,
is
like,
that
1982?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
But,
understand
like
what you're
I
trying to
I
say.
was-
Like, it's bull crud that is even said.
Yeah, it's not just that, but that doesn't even give an excuse for the way you treat females, or the way females are viewed in video games, or anything like that. Like, just because it is true that, like, the demographic for video games is majority male than female. I think that's almost a given, but, like, that doesn't give an excuse to, like, treat females within games or outside of games like crap, because we view these things, we take from these things, and, you know, we reflect on these things. So when you show them, you might, like, point is, it's wrong in any way, shape, or form, and it shouldn't happen. And that is my feminist rant for the day. Go females.
It's
And
changed a lot
males.
too.
You need to
I
live
mean, 'cause I know, like,
equally.
since I am the older guy here, I'm going to use my oldness to, like, bring this
Uh-huh.
up. Is that, I mean, I started gaming with the NES in '88, so I went through all the pretty much most of the generations, with the exception of, like,
Yeah.
the Atari, but that's pre-gaming as we know it. But gaming has changed so much, and I mean, even like 10 years ago, like, I barely knew any girls who were really
Yeah.
into gaming at all, and it's changed so much, because now, I mean, just even like, for instance, like, I've been going to Anime Con since 2004. In 2004, there wasn't a single girl in any of the video gaming contests, and the last one we went to, almost half were all female that were involved in gaming contests. And I think I think more people now are more open to it. It's more of a widely accepted thing, and there are definitely more girls now in gaming and in nerdy cultures, and, you know, than there were even 10 years ago, without a doubt.
Now, it's
Yeah, the
slightly
fact-
different. Sorry, but it's slightly different
okay.
for me, being the fact that, say, like 10 years ago, around like 10 to 8 years ago, around that 2002, 2004, that time, I was like 6 to 8 or 10, depending on where we're looking at here. But about like a decade ago, I knew like 0 girls that played video games. But now I think with the Wii and the Xbox 360 and all that, it's kind of been catapulted into a wider demographic.
Me and Tricky are like 10 years apart, and the fact that I feel the greatest distance in terms of, like, gaming generation between you guys and myself, and not myself and Tricky, says a lot about how much over the past couple of years alone it's evolved. And I think it's time our views on this grow up as well and mature, and I think it will in time. And maybe this is just the worst it's gonna get, because as much attention as this received, this also received a backlash of backlash, just rushed forward almost immediately after it happened, and I am happy about that. It still sucks that it had to happen, but that may be a good thing for the industry as well.
I think
maybe now we'll grow past it.
I think the main problem is that a lot of people don't realize that they're into video games. Newsflash, people, iOS games are video games. They're not
video games.
They are actually video games, and they're not just something. They're not just a game. And
to a certain degree, I think
that Just Dance game that you're playing on your Wii, yeah, that is a video game. And newsflash, the Wii is actually a video game console. So people don't realize that they are a part of this culture, but they're a part of this nerd culture without even realizing it.
Yeah, so I think you actually pretty much summed it up perfectly. I don't think people necessarily realize that these things can be enjoyed by a wider audience than they're giving them credit for. And even themselves are enjoying it without realizing it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how we got over here, but that was a very, very great discussion, everyone.
Yeah,
and that's also...
I think... Nice
serious social commentary by the Wii Talk U Listen cast.
Yeah, Wii Talk Listen is pro-female gamer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that being said, I also hope that this will bring much love to the new year to come, and that these issues won't exist next year. And like I said, that growth and maturity will also come. So this was a nice way to end this, if we are ending it.
Yep, I believe we are.
Yeah.
Are we?
I believe we are.
Are we?
I wonder.
I don't think there's anything. Well, there is one thing I want to say. You guys need to download the Times and Majora's Mask remixed album because it is amazing. I've been wanting to
I agree.
Download it. It's free. It's optional donation, but it is free. And it actually came out today. There was a huge countdown clock with the Majora's Mask face on it, and the countdown was actually for this album. And it's astoundingly beautiful. I was crying on the train. So go download it. Go. It's free.
Oh, I didn't realize that's what it was for. I thought it was for the end of the world. That's awesome.
Yeah, terriblefate.com. That's where the album is.
Yeah, I saw your links to it, and I thought it was just the end of the world. I like the whole thing behind it, though. But anyway, do we want to talk about Jingle Bells, or I don't know. I'll cut whatever this is out. So we can
you're
talk
not
real
cutting
quick.
it out. We have to leave it all in. 100% of its glory.
No. While we're trying to figure out what we're doing, I don't know. We'll keep this in. So
it needs to be raw, uncut podcasting.
Exactly.
All right,
We Talk U Listen unplugged.
Okay. Yeah.
So are we?
As seen in the Pokemon episode, we do sing every once in a while, and in last episode, Pone sings, but he's not here, so we're gonna sing something for you.
Yeah, since it's our last show before Christmas, we wanted to do a nice holiday number for everybody.
We put our own
We Talk
little
U
twist
Listen
on it,
style.
though, so it's
Yeah.
not. It's a traditional Christmas song, but. So you guys ready to go?
And this will be awful, by the way.
Yeah, we have not
Yeah.
practiced this at all, intentionally. So it sounds astoundingly bad.
All right.
Get ready for your ears to be blown.
All right,
You guys ready?
I'm ready. I've been
Ready.
ready.
Okay. Wait. I'm scared, guys. I'm so
Do it.
scared.
There's no backing out now.
Are we gonna have to do a countdown?
Why don't we just go for it?
Are you ready? You ready?
Yep.
We can do this. We could do this.
We can do this. Believe
Are we
it or
gonna
not,
do
viewers,
what, are
we
we gonna
can
do the short
actually sing
version,
and
or are we gonna
coordinate
do the whole
things.
full thing?
I think we're
On
just
the-
gonna do the abridged version.
All right, so we're gonna do the 12 days of whatever, and we're
12
gonna
days
start
of
on day
Wii
12
Talk
and
U
just go down.
The 12 days of podcast.
Oh yeah.
Are we going with what Nuna has suggested in the chat there?
Yes, we are.
Fourth wall has
All
been
right.
broken.
3, 2, 1. On the first
first
day.
Full Final Fantasy discussions per episode, 11 audio issues, 10 copies of
10
Sound
copies
Savvy.
of Sound Savvy, 9
processing,
9
Carlos.
Carlos.
Hey, Carlos.
Dinner at 5 p.m.
Dinner 5 p.m. because they're all hungry.
6 Resident
Six
Evil
Resident Evil 6
5
reviews,
Nunabytes
5 Nunabytes.
squeeze.
Wait, whoa!
Wait,
It's supposed to be
guys!
5 Nunabytes.
Squeeze.
4 Deadly Virus
Deadly
Four
Deadly
Deadly
Virus
Virus
Action,
Action, 3
Souls,
Souls,
3
3
Souls,
Tommy.
12
and a few
games.
And we'll see you guys.
That was horrible.
Yeah, that was horrible, but I think
That was
it-
horrendous. That wasn't even a song.
Alright, guys, we're ending this right now. We Talk, You Listen, episode whatever, bye.